Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. Thanks very much for the organizers. It's been amazing so far. So I'm going to go a little bit off-piste just now and talk about beer. And I was going to have some real beer here for you all to show you and potentially taste, but it proved very popular last night and it was all drunk. But I do have a relic, so just to prove that it was around, I'm going to put that there. But I'm just going to talk about how beer is contributing to an emerging elephant economy in the Okavango Delta, Botswana, where we experience quite a lot of human-elephant conflict. Yeah, how does beer contribute to an elephant economy whereby community, mostly subsistence farmers, benefit from elephants? It's probably not a good mix in this instance here, beer and driving and elephants. But really it's about looking at alternatives to a wildlife economy and also bridging the gap between some of the conflicting sectors, in this case, agriculture and conservation. As has been mentioned so many times thus far today, one of the main drivers of human-wildlife conflict and one of the big issues that we need to deal with in promoting human-wildlife coexistence is the lack of benefits. It's this massive cost-benefit imbalance. And it's a huge driver. And it increases perceived levels of conflict, and it's also a contributor to reducing tolerance levels. And so this is again the case in the Okavango Delta with communities that live with the largest population of elephants in the world. So Ecoexist is an organization that I work for. I'm a director along with Anna Songhurst. And we have a team of 35 on the team, amazing people who are from the area who we work with. We are focused on addressing human-elephant conflict, trying to alleviate the immediate needs, trying to address the immediate needs of farmers to reduce conflict, but also looking at how do we address the underlying drivers to promote coexistence. So this is where we're based, in the Okavango Delta in northwestern Botswana, predominantly up around the Okavango Panhandle region, the top there. And so in our efforts to drive a wildlife economy, what we call an elephant economy in this case, we looked at various different ways that we could bring predominantly farmers into different value chains that could really improve their livelihoods, but as a direct result of living with elephants. And low-hanging fruit is tourism diversification. The Okavango Delta is a diamond in the Kalahari, and with, Sub-Saharan Africa is, the fastest growing wildlife-based economy. It's set to double to 130 million visitors by 2030. Diversifying the tourism product in the wildlife tourism sector is really essential to trying to capture more of that increasing market. And so that's what we looked at initially. And this was kind of our flagship project initially to develop the elephant economy. It's become a flagship enterprise that we helped set up and support. It's called the Life with Elephants Tour Group. And 10 members of the community got together and we co-designed an activity to offer local tourists and also to offer tourists that were already coming to see the wildlife in the Delta, but then could come out and actually experience what it's like in the communities to live with those wildlife. It's been hugely successful. It took a long time to establish, to get through all the legislation and bring the guys to a point where they now are doing so well that most of the big operators are drawing up MOUs with this tour group and want to have it on their itinerary. So building on that, we're diversifying further, trying to bring more people into the tourism value chain. And one way of accelerating the entrance into the tourism value chain is to create partnerships with existing operators. And that takes, some time and some negotiation and facilitation. But it really helps gain access to that tourism value chain for community members. And this elephant viewing platform in the middle there and sky beds, we've got a couple of them on the go at the moment. Another important part of the elephant economy is providing support for one of the most basic needs, transport in the area. It's a very remote area, and the tourism industry has actually invested into an idea that we came up with for an Elephant Express to take the vulnerable, particularly school kids, across elephant corridors every morning to school, and also to provide the vulnerable access to clinics. And because it's a really attractive one, and it's an easy one for the tourism sector to invest in, we're getting some more support to increase this. Elephant theme crafts is another low-hanging fruit, and it's just about creating new products, elephant-themed products, that are accessing markets because of the elephant theme and the story behind it, that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise access. And now this Yokoti Basket Weavers group of 70 women is exporting 1,000 baskets a year to the US. And it's another example of how we can leverage a life with elephants and a story behind products to really access markets and develop some value from a life with elephants. There's a whole other suite of different activities and services and performances that we're looking at that we can build and connect to the tourism value chain. This is another enterprise, a craft hub, where the shop and the owner of the shop really provides the quality control for all of these crafts and connects them to markets. Again, we're looking at beekeeping. It's so popular around the world, but it's a no-brainer. And we've tried Lucy King's method of the beehive fences for mitigation, and as a result, created a little economy around the beekeepers. Veldt products, we've done a feasibility study and looked at what Veldt products are compatible with life with elephants and have access to viable markets. But really, I wanted to focus on another really important part of this elephant economy, and that is the agricultural value chain. And we might say that this is the real sort of, this is where conservationists butt heads with one of the main conflicting sectors out there, the agricultural sector, and particularly with elephant conflict. And so, we wanted to, tourism, it benefits a small portion of the population. 80% of the population are agriculturalists. How do we engage that percentage of the population into a value chain that they can benefit from as a direct result of life with elephants, living with elephants? So our model is based on our holistic approach. Elephant-aware farming, which we have coined it, is really based on a farmer recognizing the need to share the landscape with elephants. So building on the landscape approach with the land use planning, I don't know how many of you were at the case study talk, but Anna spoke just now about the work we've been doing over the last 15 years with the land boards and really identifying those elephant corridors and keeping them open to reduce the conflict. So farmers now recognize the need to keep those open. They conduct mitigation techniques, they use different cash crops, and they're using sustainable agricultural practices to grow more on their lot without having to expand and continue slash and burn practices. So the surplus that we're getting out of this approach, we in this room would put a higher value on that surplus. How then do we monetize that value that really adds tangible benefits to the farmers? So we looked at the mainstay, which is millet in this area. We looked at the mainstay crop, and we looked at how could we add value to this. Through connecting them with markets, we established farmer cooperatives that really to help consolidate harvest yield, storage, and transport to markets, but also to really understand a collective initiative to really try and create a sustainable link to a value chain that could benefit them. Elephant-aware farming, it's nice in theory, but how does it work in practice? So we designed a conservation agreement that we get the farmers to sign every season. And they meet a number of different behavioral and practice criteria in order to access a premium market for their surplus produce. So they understand what's needed of them. They sign the agreement that at the end of the crop season, they're evaluated and then they get the premium price. We have turned this into an app that we monitor the farmers with. We onboard the farmers. This app helps us survey, helps us identify where the farmers are in location to the corridors. It monitors their yields, and it basically certifies them at the end of the crop season as elephant aware. This is some shots from the dashboard of that, just showing the location of the farmers in relation to the corridors, and it provides some key stats on farmers and yields, etc. And so in 2020, our first ever time, we actually sold the first lot of elephant-aware farming produce, millet, to a new market, and that was the Okavango Craft Brewery in Maun, based in Maun. Swapping hats for a moment, we realized that in order to add value and to make a viable business work, that there was nothing, there was no manufacturing, there was no food and beverage manufacturing in northern Botswana. So if we wanted to do this, we had to sort of do it ourselves. So we got together with some partners, and Loki, sitting right here, brought some of his dear friends in who became partners to a business that set up this craft brewery in Maun, creating quality craft beer that is award-winning, actually, and it's made with millet that's grown by elephant-aware farmers, and they are paid twice the price that they would normally get for their millet because they are coexisting with elephants. And that beer then gets sold back into the tourism industry and the general populace. So it's creating a circular economy. It's also merging sectors that would otherwise be conflicting, and making it work for farmers at the end of the day. And it was about value addition, and in this case, malting the grain. So we had to start from scratch to really, leverage the potential there. Some interesting stats. These are just some stats of the various different enterprises that we've helped establish and support, and just their income over the last 2 years. You can see that some of the longer existing enterprises have gained quite a lot in the last couple of years. The Life with Elephants tour has done really well since COVID. Last year, over 80,000 pulas worth. That's probably roughly about $8,000 in that season, and it's set to double this year based on bookings already. The craft making industry has also really profited. And if you look at, since we started the elephant economy, just last year alone, the increase in the revenue among the different tourism, craft, and agricultural enterprises has been really encouraging. And we're set to increase that economy and just build on the momentum. And one of the reasons for that is, just with some qualitative stats here, one of them is that, just the second stat there, I'll start with 77% of the participants, and this is an N of 178 people who are involved in these enterprises so far. 77% of them said that they have experienced really positive interest and response from their communities. Their fellow community members have seen how they're benefiting now and are really keen to get involved. And particularly among the farmers, we've got masses of farmers, hundreds of farmers who want to be trained now on elephant-aware farming this year. So there's huge potential. And 98% feel positive and feel like they benefit now from the new businesses. 86% say their attitudes have changed and are more positive about elephants. And that's really what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, this is, related. This is questions directed to the people involved. We want to broaden that now to people who are not involved and just compare. But this is just preliminarily some data that we've collected. So, 91% say that elephants provide potential for future livelihood opportunities in the communities. And, for us, when we first went in there, and the Cutler meetings, the meetings as we all have experienced, and it's hard. People are like, get rid of these elephants. We don't want them around. There's too many. To start changing mindsets, and that's all about bringing value and bringing people into value chains. And look, it's a long way from being perfect, and we have a long ways to go. But I think it's worth toasting, and we'll say cheers. Thanks.
Thank you. If you stay there, we've got 5 minutes for questions. If anybody has got any questions, yes, there is a roving mic.
Hello, Graham. Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. How did you go along on promoting this product? That would be my question. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Good question. Thank you. It's still ongoing. With any product that you get out there, it's really hard to enter the market. So much competition. But we felt, particularly in the tourism industry, there was nothing like it in our area. It was a no-brainer to target the tourism industry, because you can imagine a tourist sitting watching elephants over a beautiful scenic view and sipping on a beer that is made from millet that's grown by farmers that live with those elephants. I mean, for guides in a camp, in a safari camp, I used to be a guide back in the day, and you could leverage half a day of chat based on that product, And it's all about getting tips. So, the more you can, and you can really, so it wasn't hard to get some support from the tourism industry. Obviously, this is a premium product. So after COVID, people didn't want to spend the extra, but we're slowly gaining traction. And even with the local market, it is a quality product. And like I say, we've won a couple of awards, and that's really helped us. We've won some really prestigious awards, actually, Pan-African awards for craft beer, for the quality of it. We're lucky to have an amazing brewer, Murray Stevenson. And that has really helped us get the story out there. And the story behind it, people love. You know, you sit there in the tap room and you tell them the story and they go, wow, all of a sudden it tastes better, you know. But, yeah.
Actually, I'll come to you. I'm just going to ask a question of my own, if I may. You said at the moment you've got 178 beneficiaries, and obviously there's massive potential for scaling up. But at what point, where's the market saturation, do you think? What number could you go to? Because the tourism market is huge. The beer market probably is huge.
Yeah. No, great question. And actually, we cannot turn over enough of the millet that we buy. So we are, instead of trying to scale up the beer, because we can't do that quick enough, we're diversifying the products. And we're going to be making products that will turn over much quicker, bigger quantities of millet and other crops. So, but that's a great question, because that's something we're dealing with right now, and we're diversifying the products. So yeah, just to get those farmers on board that really want to be connected.
Yes.
Cheers. How long have you been doing this with the brewery? Because it follows on from Dilsa's question about building up the business, and it does seem, with all the lodges in the Delta there in Maun, but also all the camps and things, that you've got a huge potential market. But you've just said that you face some practical obstacles scaling up. So I'm just wondering about how long and what that likelihood is to be, because it does sound like a fabulous thing. And also, we had some feedback yesterday evening from some African drinkers of the beer, and they said that they didn't like it. It wasn't lager. Do you do a lager that would be more kind of palatable? So there's product diversification as well. It does sound like there's huge scope for that, but also I'd be interested to know what other products you're seeking for the millet. Yeah,
great, Keith. Yeah, I mean it's. So we started the brewery, and we actually we get a medal for the worst timing of any business startup. We literally brewed our first batch in March 2020. But we're quite proud of the fact that we established officially in 2019. And it's early days yet. We have seen great potential, but scaling a product that is quite equipment intense, in the brewery. So diversifying to products that you can literally just mill or extrude and put into cereals. Millet flour, it's, we're looking at, actually, I didn't mention, but we're a member of Wildlife Friendly Network now. And we're looking at, there's a big responsible market there, especially for high nutritious value food that is locally grown, as organically or almost. And we'll be looking at getting more of those certifications as we go, just to, because we want to add as much value as we can in the product so that we can give more back to the farmers. And that's the whole point. So that farmers realize that actually the story here is adding the value. So for them, it's really important to keep that feedback loop and say, look, guys, this is being bought because you are coexisting with elephants. And that's a really important feedback loop, and engaging them in the whole process. It's been really good. Just, bringing the beer back to the farmers, and you see their faces when they drink it. It's priceless. But
Thank you, Graham. Hold any other questions. We'll come back to those at the end. We're going to